record this so that I can post it later for those who couldn't get on. So everybody can see my computer now? Oh, I'm opening. Oh, I just clicked the wrong thing to open. Hold on. Whoops. Gotcha. Don't you have evenings and weekends? So you guys should be seeing my craft room opening right now. Everybody see that? Okay. Let me just pop over here and make sure there's no questions. Janet, and your questions are killing me. Are you on here, Janet? Then I guess she's not on. Okay. So let's do this real quick. I'm going to type her a message since she's not on the phone. She has been my source of entertainment this whole day. Okay. So I had a question initially on how to use the pens with the older machines, and I'm just going to say Expression because that's the most popular one, but you can use it in any of the machines. And they look like this. Everybody see those pens? Okay, I just happen to be on the HSN website. I'm not promoting buying them at HSN. I bought mine at Joann's or Michael's or somewhere. And you just put them in your machine. You take your blade out, and this little nook right down in here is where it sits in your blade housing of the machine. Not the blade housing, but when you take the blade housing out and you put that in, that little nook is where it clamps in. Okay? So then you would just design your project that you wanted to write or color. Well, outline. It's not going to color the whole thing. And then you're going to do everything as if you were cutting. And you're going to say cut, but instead of cutting, it's going to draw. Okay? So then, if you're done, and that's exactly what you wanted it to do, then you eject your mat and you move on to your next project. But if you wanted to draw it and then cut it, do not eject your mat because you're never going to get it lined up exactly the same. So what you'll do then is draw it out, whether it's words or an apple or whatever it is you're doing. You're going to just draw it out, and then you're going to replace the pen with the blade housing. Where's that coffee, Janet? With the blade housing, and put it back in, and then recut. Tell Cricut Craft Room to recut. Just choose the mat and say cut, and it's going to recut it as if it's going to redo it. It thinks it's cutting, doesn't know it's got pens in it. So then you're going to have your item cut with a small little bit of ink around the edges. It adds just a little hint of ink to it, so it's actually a really cute feature. I just don't have any way of showing you that because my computer doesn't. I can't show you my Expression through the screen sharing software. But if you play with it, it's fine. You'll see what I'm talking about right away. It's super easy. And there is adapters, but I don't know anything about them because I've never used them, that will allow you to use smaller pens. But I don't know them. I'd say Google them or YouTube them. People will tell you where to buy them and how to use them. I just don't know anything about them. So besides that question, what questions do you all have? Okay, is that what y'all want me to do? Is just okay. You don't have to have them linked. Okay, why? You're not. By linking them and using them in Craft Room, all that it does is says when you're using Cricut Craft Room, you do not have to put that cartridge in your machine. That's it. You can still use it as a freestanding machine with your cartridge and without the computer. Doesn't change it. The only thing it does change is you couldn't loan it to somebody and have them link it to their account. It can only be linked one time. But you could loan it to somebody and they could physically put it in their machine and use it, just like you could put it in your machine and use it if your internet was down. That's all it does. The only time that the linking becomes a factor and has to be done is when you have an Explorer. Yeah, so yep. Okay. Well, the only reason I would say linking is a plus is because you wouldn't have, if you were using the craft room, you wouldn't have to put the cartridge in the machine to use it. You would go here under My Cartridges, and if your cartridges were linked, okay. That is the first I've ever heard of that. Interesting. Yeah. Interesting. I haven't heard that before. So see, you're teaching me things. Okay. So if you were to link any other cartridge, they're just going to show up under My Cartridges. And then you would use it the same way. When you're on your computer and you're designing, then you can design away and not have to put the cartridges in your machine. And where that comes in handy is if you're using multiple cartridges in your design. But if you can still do multiple cartridges in your design if they're not linked. It's just going to prompt you to change the cartridge out every time. So that's the only reason you would want to link them or not link them. And to do that, oh, go ahead. It's online. So I'm on my home laptop, and I can go to work and access this at my work computer too. Two that are cutting. I never cut at work, obviously, because my machine's not there. But I can log into it all the time. I design when I'm bored at work. Yeah. Little cheat sheets around things. So yeah, but even if you say you got a home computer and you have a laptop and you've got Cricut Craft Room on them and everything's happy, and then your computer dies and you have to get a new one, you just call up Cricut and have them clear out your history, and then you can select 2 new computers. Easy. You can totally do that. I've done that at my friend's house. Took my all my stuff and didn't have my computer. We logged into her laptop and did everything, and then when I wanted to hook up a different computer, I had to call and clear out my history because I had too many computers hooked up. So what else do we have? Layering? Easy. Easy. Okay, let's find... My favorite cartridge for layering is an old Creative Memories cartridge. So let me find it. And it's called Cheerful Season. It's just got the best of things. You have that one? I love this cartridge. So, let's see. So let's make these little these little sandals here. Right now I'm on the basic tab. And I'm going to do this at 2.5 inches. So everything is going to come up there at 2.5 inches. Here it's on relative, and here it's on real dial size. I don't want it on real dial size. It's going to put everything up there at 2.5 inches. I want it on relative. That's where it's going to say, oh, this one goes in the back and this one needs to size appropriately. So if I'm on relative and I'm on the basic, and I can tell that this is the back of my sandals, so I'll put it up there. So I have sandals. And then I can add another layer, and if I hit shift, I have more sandals. So let's change the color. Where are my colors? I'm supposed to have colors here. Interesting. I don't have any colors. Has this ever happened to anybody? I'm going to close out and see if I can. You're supposed to have colors there. It's because your layers are different colors. Maybe that's why you were having problems. There is no colors here. Very crazy. I gotta write this down. There's supposed to be colors. Paper, paper, paper. Pen. No layer colors. I knew they're doing an upgrade tomorrow for some design space stuff, but that shouldn't affect this. So, I'm at a loss. Well, I think that's probably. We're gonna pretend there's colors. We are. So, go back to my cartridge here. That's probably why you've had problems, because there's supposed to be colors. And I have a video on YouTube that shows layering, and it shows the colors. So if you get confused here, try that. Okay. There are ones that I have linked, and then I have the subscription. So, yeah. These creative memory ones I have linked. But you can tell if you weren't under my cartridges, if you were under all cartridges. And see how some of them are gray and some of them are black? The gray ones I don't have. They're not part of the subscription, and I don't have them linked. So I can't use those. I'll go back to my... Okay. Well, this is going to be fun to do without colors. Well, there's our flip-flop. Oops, not two of them. And we're still on relative. And then if we go to the different layers, we have different pieces to our flip-flop. And I would hit this and add another layer and add another layer. But if it's all black and white, what's the point? Well, I guess it will be the point because I'll be able to layer them. So there's my flip-flops back. You can see they fit right over the top here. And then our next piece, we have the straps. Oops, I gotta put them on a different layer. Otherwise, it's going to want to weld them together. It's going to cut them all. Oh, I'm having a heck of a time here. Move! I haven't had a coffee yet today. Okay, we're just going to do it this way. So then you set those on there. And add another layer, and we just look and see if there's any other pieces. I'm not seeing any that go with it. Plus, if you were looking in the book, it's going to tell you What other pieces? This one? Oops. That one. Okay, well, let's do this. Because now, if I put this here, it's going to, well, if it was colored, it would go over the top, and it's not, it needs to go in the back. So, to do that, you would just click up here and drag this over to where you want it. And see, now it says layer 4 over here. And then it would, if it was colored, it would be back behind, and this would be so much more easier to see if it was different colors. This bothers me, I don't know why. So anytime you have your layers, the far left is the back, and as you move to the right, it's in the front. Now, if I went on to layer 5 and I add this little butterfly up here. That is a butterfly, right? Looks like it. And I stay on the same layer and I put the other piece to it on top of it. It's going to ask me if I want to weld or not weld. So that's where your layers come in. You don't, it's going to cut them both. Anywhere that there is a black line, it's going to cut. Well, because right now on this butterfly right here, it's going to cut it at the same time. It's going to outline the outside here, and it's not going to give you the opportunity to change the paper. It's going to just cut again. But on the layers, it's going to prompt you between each layer to change your mat. So if you wanted to cut this all at the same time, then you could say, oh, I like the way that looks that way on my screen. I'm going to move this piece over here and put your piece of colored paper here and put this piece of colored paper here. The machine's not going to know that you have two different pieces of colored paper on your mat. It's just going to think it's cutting two things at the same time. Uh-huh. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the options that's supposed to be here on this drop down is color. And I don't know why there's no color. And if you watch the video on YouTube, you'll see that. And you can actually rename these. Like here, I can click on that and say butterfly. So for future, if, whoops, helps if you can type. I'm typing one-handed. So, you know, say I wanted to save this and put it up on the group for everybody, and I have it hidden. You know, you can hide things. Just put that little eyeball right there. So then, you know, you're looking at flip-flops and you're like, she told me there was a butterfly here, and you're not seeing it because I have it hidden. Well, that tells you it's on that layer right there, and you just click on it and you can see it. Who's joining us? Is it Janet? Well, we just went over layers. Okay, are we good on layers, or do we have more questions on layers? Layers. Me too. Because layer, you are. She's been drinking. I heard about her in the other group the other night. She was drinking. Okay, moving on. What else do we need to go over? Are we good with the layers, or was there more questions on the layers? Well, the little colored icons. See this right here where I have show Cricut Imagine images? Unclick it. You don't have an Imagine. Because you don't have an Imagine. But to color it, it's not like with the Explorer where you can color them in. You'd have to color it by hand. You could cut them. You could trace them with these pens here, but it's not going to color them in. I do too. Now, the Cricut Imagine cartridges. I gotta find one that has one. You can use them, but not really. Well, let me show you. I have to find one, you guys. Who knows of a cartridge that has them? Okay, you girls. I can't. Okay, here's some. Okay, so new. We don't want to save this. Oh, it went away. It was called Yum or something, wasn't it? What was it called? To color them like that? Me too, but listen. Yes and no. So you have this on here, and you don't have the Imagine. The Imagine would color it and then cut it, okay? So you can ungroup them. See how I just did that? I right-clicked. Wait a minute. You can move them apart, and you can print them or cut them. What was that? Yeah. Yeah, so see how I took them all apart, and then you would delete this one because you don't need it anymore. And then you could cut this one on brown paper, and you could cut this one on pretty printed paper that you have, and then run it through your embossing machine. And you could print this one on pink paper and make the same thing. It's just not going to do the hard work for you first. Yeah. I don't know. So you can use them, but you're not going to, don't expect to run this through your machine and have it come out looking just like that. It's not going to, and you have to ungroup it first. Next. Oh, you guys got to have some questions for me. You guys are a hoot. Okay. Shape properties, honest, I have never once used this in all of my years because you can do it elsewhere. You're gonna use it. You're gonna see these same things elsewhere. So if we click on text, these are all your cartridges that have fonts on them that you have. Okay. So you pick one. Let's do Feeling Groovy. I have no idea what this looks like. It's going to show it down here. So you can do a lot of things. You can click here and add a text box. You can click here and add a text box. Or you can click down here. Yeah, but watch. Or I'm gonna. So all those three places do the same thing. So it doesn't matter which one you click on. So we're going to use Janet's name. So I have not clicked done yet. It's still here in my text field. I can set how big I want it over here. Or I can just put a number in there. I don't have to use the arrows. So you can type a number, not 53. Or you can use the arrow up and down to make it larger or smaller. You can do letter spacing. Here is where you weld your letters. See as they get closer together? And see how the J does not continue down any longer? It's not going to cut. It's going to come down, it's going to go right here, and it's going to go over here. It's going to attach your letters. The N is attached there and up here. And just because it's me, I like to have them. You can do this. No. No. There's so many things you cannot do with just your machine. You have to do it through the craft room. And this is one of those things. Sure you can. Some machines, no, some, if you, okay, listen. If your cartridges are linked to Craft Room, in a perfect world, you never have to put that cartridge in your machine to use Craft Room, ever. There are a select few machines, and I have no idea why it does this, that it wants a cartridge. It doesn't matter what cartridge. It wants a cartridge in the machine. So you just put any cartridge in the machine, and if your cartridges are linked to the Craft Room, it will work. If say I had this down here, this Fontobia crest and cards, you can see I don't have it linked because it's gray. If I had that cartridge, I can, and it's going to change everything here. I could design right now in this, okay? Then when I plug my computer into my machine, it's going to ask me to. Okay. Okay. Bye-bye. If I don't have that font or that cartridge and it's not linked to my machine, I can design here all I want. And then when I connect my machine to my Cricut and I go to cut, it's going to ask me to put that cartridge in my machine because it's not linked to my account. Yep. 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 If Some of them, the font cartridges, you would just go onto Cricut.com and you can buy digital cartridges and download. And when you buy them, they go into your account. So when you log in, they're already there. Some fonts, some images, you can buy individually, not all. But the font cartridges, you can buy the cartridges as a digital. So, yeah, you can do it here. Go to shop, and it's going to take you to Cricut.com. Same thing. Same thing. So, let's see what else we could do. If we, oops. So if we went back, and it welds these together, and see, it's welded the N and the E, but not the T. The T is not attached yet. That's still solid black. So we need to go a little closer. Now everything's all welded together. You can then slant your letters here. And you can go right back to 0. And you can tilt them up and down here as well. Or you can go, yeah. So once I hit done, it's on my mat, and these don't work anymore, I believe. It does. Oh, look, it takes you back. I just learned something new. Takes you right back to it. So if I hit done, and I put it right here on my mat, that's exactly where it's going to cut. No more guessing where to put your paper. That's where it's going to cut. Okay? Now, let's say, click off of it a second. I want to move it. I want to separate that T. I don't want it. I want it to say Jane instead of Janet. I just right click and say ungroup. And I could do edit text too, but I'm doing it this way. And then I click off of it, and they're all individual now. When I click here, I'm going to get the T, and I can move it. And I can delete it because I want it to say Jane. And I can click up here and encompass it. See how it's all blue? It's temporarily grouped right now. So that means I can move it. I can do it any way I want to. I can stretch it with these, or I can move it left and right, sorry. I can tilt it. Come on, tilt. I can make it taller or longer. I can resize it as a whole. But once I click off of it, it's now separate again because I didn't group them back. But if I wanted to group them back, I would just encompass it all again, and then right click and say group. And now they're all one again. I can't separate them until I ungroup them. So that's the text feature. Colors and patterns are only if you have the Imagine machine. I don't either. Machine and mat is where you pick your machine. And this is important. You have to tell it what machine you're... Oh, there's our colors! I was on the wrong machine! See how important it is? Okay. Well, whew, I'm glad I figured that out. So there, I have an expression, so I choose expression, and then your mat size, because you can have the two options on this machine. I use inches. You can change it to millimeters, centimeters, pica, or points. I keep mine on inches. And if you wanted to change colors, here's how you change the colors. You just click on the color and hit apply. Well, whew. Well, so let's do this, because if I can get it to... The problem when you click off of it when it's grouped together that I find is you have to find where to click back. I say delete. And let's see, which one? Let's do this one. Well, maybe. Is this going to allow me? This is kind of a weird one to do it on, but so see this hide contour button right here? If you click that, it turns it to an outline. So like the center of this A right here, when it turns red, I can take it away. I can click on it and take it away. Yeah. Part of it. So now I took away the insides of the B's, the A, and you hit exit. I don't have those anymore. But then I go, oh shoot, I do want those there. You click on it again, click the hide contour, I can bring them right back. Just click on them and bring them back. And then say exit and they're there again. Now the split things in here, let me show you that kind of real quick. Let's use the Cricut Craft Room font. You get a special, I don't know if you knew this. For using Cricut Craft Room, you get the Cricut Craft Room Basics. This is the only way you can access this is through the Craft Room. So let's go capital. And it's a good letter to use. We'll do the T. So we have this T, and if you want to do a split monogram, it's really easy, guys. Now I just need to find a rectangle, and there is one in here. Here's one. This will work. So you want to keep it on the same layer, okay? And this is how it works. You want to make it thinner, and you want to make it longer because you want somebody, like say somebody's last name to fit in there. And then you put it where you want your split to be. And when it says weld or don't weld, you say don't weld. Okay? So when it cuts, it's going to cut this out. It's going to cut the T, and it's not going to come this way. It's not going to come down. But see this black line right here? It's going to cut that. So then when you actually cut it, you have this gap in your letter T. So then you can add another layer, and you can say, oh, we'll add some text in here, and we'll say test. So now you can visually, because you're on a different layer, see if that's going to fit where you split. And you want to make sure it's going to fit inside your rectangle. You're not going to have this rectangle necessarily. You could. Oh yeah, well, let me show you that too. So you know your letters are going to fit in there. Okay. Now, what some people do is you can go back onto this layer, copy this rectangle. So copy and paste. And make this really narrow. Okay. And then make this one really narrow. And then you want to go onto this layer, and you still want to make sure, and you can use your arrow key on your keypad to move this around. So then that's what it's going to cut. This will actually cut on a separate mat, so that's okay. Your T, you're going to have your lines here and your lines here. So it's going to cut, and you're going to take out this chunk right here of your T. And then you're going to put your different layer with your text in there. And that's how you do the split layers. It's not hard at all. So when you hear people talking about the slice feature in Explorer, that's this. They would put this little rectangle on top of here and they'd hit slice and it would cut it. So then on their mat, while they're visually designing it, they would remove this piece here. We don't need that. We can see it ourselves. We know to move it. So there you go. And you just got to make sure you do not weld. If you weld it, it's just going to cut around it. And it won't make these cuts right here. These cuts are your important cuts. What else? Oh, well, you got to use it. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. When you're down here, whatever you set your inches at here, that's what everything's going to default at on your, when it goes onto your cutting mat. So we'll put an H up here. Right. Right. And then, go ahead. When you're doing layers, you got to make sure you're on relative, which is this one right here. Yeah, what it does with the relative is it takes the largest thing on that cartridge, and if you put it on your mat, that would come in at exactly 2.5 inches. And then everything else is going to be sized proportionately as if you were actually writing it. Where if it's on real, it's going to put the capital A and the little a at 2.5 inches. So I keep everything on relative. But you can... Right. And it will adjust the size for you automatically if you're on relative, so that everything layers appropriately. But if you put it on layer 2 and you meant to put it on layer 1, just drag it over. And it'll change it for you. See how when I moved it, it put the test behind? So whatever on the far left is your back layer. And then you can always move it back. Well, easier said than done sometimes. There you go. But what I was going to show you is if I put it on here at 2.5 inches, because that's what I have down there, and then I decide I don't want it 2.5 inches, you can drag it and resize it here just by clicking your mouse and holding it down and pulling on this arrow, or up here. And Cricut does everything by height. So if I put this here at 3 inches up here in the top, and you'll notice that this little infinity symbol is black. So if I put this at 3, it's going to adjust, well, 3, hello. It's going to adjust, where'd my H go? I think I put it at 0. And it went away. Okay, so try this one. So if I put this at 3, it's going to adjust the width as well because these are linked together. If I click that off and make it gray and then change the height, it's only going to change the height. It's going to keep the width the same. But then you can link it back. You can reverse things, like if you wanted to put this on the underside of a get rid of this H, on the underside of, say, a cutting board. What the heck is going on with my computer? Delete. There. So if I had test and I wanted it to flip it, because I was going to do it on vinyl and I wanted it to show on the other side, you just hit flip and it'll flip it for you. I don't know. I'm not familiar with the actual E2. I've never had one. So I don't know. Let's go see. I've always just done it in Cricut Classroom. Let's see here what my machine. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, I have a flip button here on my machine. I've just never used it because I do everything in the craft room. I'm visual. I like to see things. And there's never... Go ahead. I was going to say, if you ever put something in your machine and then went to cut it and it tells you it's not going to fit, I hate that. When you're on this, you can see, and you can see it's going to fit, and you know it's going to fit, and you don't get that problem. Because wherever it's at on your virtual mat, it's where it's going to cut. Uh-huh. Yeah. You just go up here to File, and click Save. And we'll call it Test. And hit Save. Oh, I already have one in there. We'll call it Test 2. So now I can say, so I can got a new one, and then now I'm home, and I want to open it up and work on it some more. I do File, Open, and there it is. Or I can hit Export, and I can save it as a Cricut Craft Room project or a Gypsy project, and say Begin. And then it tells you it's finished exporting, and I say Save. And I always save everything to my desktop, and it says Save To, or File, Test 2, and I hit Save. Now when I go to my desktop, it's right there. So now when I go into our Facebook group and I upload a file, it's right there. And then you guys can download it to your computer, save it on your desktop, and then go File, Open, and click on Import, and find where you saved it on your computer, and now it's in your craft room. Yeah! So there's a bunch of files in the file section in the group that people have made and shared. Correct. And that's why I've asked that people note what cartridge they used so that people know if they have them or not. Totally free. And this is one that I made for one of my crops. I'll show you real quick. And you know those little EOS eggs that you buy it everywhere? This is what I made for all my girls at my crop. And I cut out something like 30 of these little boogers. And then it cut this circle here, and then I stuck the egg to it. So that worked out really well. Sure. Anytime, you guys. Ask me any question you have. Have a good night. So how about anybody else? Anybody else have any questions? Okay. Fill the page. Let's see. With what? Okay. Let's see what we're going to fill the page with. There is a feature on the expression called fill the page, but that would be using it as a freestanding machine. I would just say copy and paste until it fills, and it'll put it all the way down. And you just keep hitting paste, and you can scroll down, and then you're off the mat and come back up, and it'll fill your page that way. And one thing that you can do is you can zoom in and out on your mat. See, I can go all the way in, or I can zoom out so I can see my whole mat. So I can still sit here and say paste, and see putting it down here. So if you ever paste something and you can't find it, zoom out. It's going to be out here on the outer links somewhere. Or if you have this and it's like this, and you think, oh, I only want to cut these 3 prongs right here, it's not going to cut it. It's going to tell you that your image is off the mat and it won't cut it. Then you have to cut the whole thing and manually cut it yourself. Yeah, if there was lines here, like if there was something that separated these prongs, then you could do the hide contour and get rid of the other stuff. But you can't with this one. It's all one. So let's see. Was there any other? I didn't even think to come back over here. Was there any other questions? Fill the page. Okay. Well, you guys know how to get a hold of me if you have any questions. I'm on the group quite a bit throughout the day, even when I'm at work. Don't tell my boss. My Facebook is always open. The only thing is I don't have Messenger on my phone. So if you send me a message and I don't reply right away, it's because I'm away from a computer and I don't have Messenger on my phone. Sure. Well, if you think of something later, just post it out there on the group or send me a message and I'll get right back to you. All right. Have a great night. Bye-bye.